Today we're joined by Joe Gerardi, one of the captains of the men's lacrosse team, a senior this year. I definitely want to talk a little bit about the season, and I also want to ask you questions about yourself too. But I'm looking at last year a little bit and how you had 16 first years and you played 3 games and you guys you're playing great defense. You hadn't even allowed 10 goals yet, and then the season was suspended due to the pandemic. Um, First off, I don't want to make you necessarily relive sort of what that was like, but I mean, how did you feel about how the team was coming together last year?
Well, honestly, I mean, kudos to Coach Smith for bringing together the guys that he has because there's just such obvious talent with the classes that he's recruiting. So it's evolved the team into more of like, okay, this guy's really talented. Regardless of his age, we're going to give him the time on the field because he works hard. He does what he needs to on the field, off the field. Um, but having the season kind of rocked in that way kind of jostled like our expectations for what playtime would be anyway in this year. So now with this incoming class of however many freshmen we have this year, a large incoming class, it's really like a toss up. But like I said, the talent is so obvious that um, there really isn't any like there's no confidence that an upperclassman per se will get that play time just because there's like I said, there's a lot of talent on the team. We're trending in the right direction. In the past, we haven't had like the most stellar record, but being a part of what's building is really exciting, and I wish that I could be here to see it through. I mean, I feel like I'm a part of it now, and we have a really good shot this season of doing very well. And I just wish I could hang on for a couple more years because I can see that it's going to be something great.
Actually, to that point, I believe you have 16 first years this year as well.
Yeah.
So as a
Yeah.
captain, well, we'll mention that Dom Joy. So your senior classmates, Dom Joy, Patrick Murphy, Justin Richmond, are also captains, as is junior Cal Hersham. How and again, it's sort of a fragmented year in the sense that I know you haven't been able to necessarily all practice at the same time all together all season. So how have you all tried to sort of help get these first years into the program, feel part of the program, make the program feel like a cohesive unit?
Yeah, that's definitely a struggle that I feel like a lot of teams, every team is going through now because it's not just about the on field, in practice aspect, because there is the whole team, like the atmosphere of St. Mike's men's lacrosse evolves on the field, but it carries over into the off field. So to try and like mend that, and like usually my experiences before the pandemic, it was just like you come over, you meet the guys on the weekends and you hang out with them, you see who they are individually, not as players, and that in that way you build, like, I feel like a stronger relationship. But there are some give and takes with the fact that like we're only really allowed to see our teammates on the field because as a senior captain, like I'm looking at freshmen, and instead of like seeing them as like, oh, this dude, he's cool or whatever, like my main like view of who they are as a person is a player. So I'm looking at them, I'm like, you could be a good leader. Like you have the characteristics to be a great leader. You just have to like mature a little bit. And like it's like a different aspect of like, it's almost like you're like grooming them for command, or like it's kind of weird in that way. But again, like to your question of like how we're trying to build that team atmosphere, we do like Zoom meetings as much as we can. I've Zoomed with other guys like on weekends, like that first weekend where you couldn't do anything really. Like we had like a Zoom meeting. We were all sitting around just chatting, trying to get to know each other. And we've done a lot of those team building Zooms and try and do stuff like that. I know the freshman class is getting close, which is great because as a unit, they're going to be really strong years coming forward. And the guys who are sophomores, juniors, and us seniors, like we're already pretty close from past years. It's hard to bridge that gap between the freshmen this year and the rest of the team because they make up half the numbers, but we can't really interact with them as much, which is a bummer. But on the field, we definitely get a sense of who the people are and a sense of their like sense of humor and all that stuff. So it's great to be able to play as a whole team now that we've made it through the stages.
Sort of funny that you mentioned, maturing. You just need, hey, first year, you're looking great. You need to mature a little bit. I feel like that's the natural progression.
Yeah.
And
You come in and everything's so new and it's like so exciting and like you feel like you're on top of the world and like you don't care if you've got your stuff together. And then like the midterm grade warnings come out and it's like, oh, I need to do stuff. And it's like, yeah, you need to manage your studies and kind of it's like you're on your own. You got to grow up a little bit. So
I spoke with Brady Neeb in the fall, and one of the things that I enjoyed asking him about, hey, who's some really overshadowed guy that you notice that maybe other people don't. I mean, have you seen some of your, I guess in the same vein, have you seen some of your teammates who have returned who, yeah, you knew they were there last year, but now this year you realize, oh my, this guy really put in the work, was, and it's been such a challenging year to really be self-motivated. Have you seen some of those guys coming back and realizing these guys are ready?
Yeah, for sure. There are a couple guys, like particularly in the LSM position, Kevin Mitchell and Brian Sardella, both really impressed me with both their like physical ability. Like I feel like they've both been in the gym and they've both been running, and their just knowledge of the game and commitment to the sport has impressed me a lot. Because like I said, when you're freshmen, like lax may not be your top priority. You're kind of trying to discover your role as a human being in the St. Mike's atmosphere. So like they're as they move up through the years, like they're better at segmenting their attention and focusing on the task at hand. And you can really see that in those two guys in particular, that they're when they're in practice, like they're going hard in practice and they're playing lacrosse. They're not worrying about school. They're not worrying about that because that 2 hours is lacrosse time. And like, I feel like that mental focus factor really develops in a player as time goes on. And in those two in particular, and there's other guys as well, like Chris Kirby, he's so devoted and like works his ass off. So like to see him do better. Brian Charlton is also like he put in the work, he hit the wall. It shows, and it's pretty impressive. There's a lot of guys I'm probably forgetting to mention as well. So,
But you can tell that it's funny. You're mentioning all defensive guys. You as a midfielder, I mean, is that what you're thinking out there? Hey, I love playing, D mid. I don't know if you call it back checking in lacrosse like you would in hockey, but or are you, sort of also resigned to the role of, well, I also need to play a little bit of offense.
Yeah. So that's always been a struggle for me in particular, because in high school I was more of like an offensive midfielder, but I feel like I was always better at defense. Like you can tell in guys like whether or not they're keen on scoring goals or they're just like athletic and good at stopping people from scoring goals. And I'm sure coach, he's a seasoned veteran at noticing those little attributes. And like my role has developed into more of like a defensive transition kind of guy. And I mean, I'm totally bought into that. So I don't like you mentioned, like I was more thinking of defensive guys because like when we do half team stuff, it's like you break up offense and defense. I'm with the defense because that's where I make my money. You know, that's what I do. So there are like tons of offensive guys who like can put the ball away that I never could. So to know that like there are important jobs that need to be done on the field, like I understand that I'm better at stopping someone and taking the ball away and giving it to someone who can score. So I mean, that's just the way it is, and like every role is important. So I don't feel any animosity for not being an offensive guy. Although like everyone can score, so it's not like I'm not trying to better my shot. It's not like I'm not trying to work on my dodges. It's just like there are guys. Coach loves to say like we pay the attackman to score, so that's their job. So like I'll give it to an attackman over like trying to dodge a long pole if they're open like any day. So yeah.
Be clear, of course, nobody is actually getting paid here.
To be clear, yes, that is a metaphor.
In case anybody from the NCAA is tuning into this.
Right.
Actually, I think the most fun is when, you know, a long pole picks up the ball in the defensive path and looking for an outlet and just keeps going and looking for an outlet and just keeps going to goal. And they
Oh
score.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. That is like that, and that fires me up because those guys, they work their butts off and their only reward is if the team wins. So if they get that little victory, if they can get that slice of give me that goal and they're hungry for it and they end up getting that statistic, like that's awesome. And I love to see it. And it usually gasses the entire team up. So it's huge.
When I know that it was maybe a week ago now, we were allowed to officially put out your schedule and sort of share that with the world. Was there a
Right.
little bit of relief when that came out that you guys, you know, you'd been told all year there's going to be a season, there's going to be a season. Was there a little bit of relief to finally see dates and opponents and sites and stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was relief there. Coming into the year, there was so much uncertainty, and I was thinking like, give me one more game. Like I need one more game before I'm set on my road, not playing competitive lax anymore. Like I just need one more. And then when that season is published and we have however many games, I think it's like 12 or something, and like you can see that those names like undetermined dates, but whatever, we'll stick with it on like as long as they're on that schedule. I know I'm gonna at least get one. I want one, and then I'll take the next one if I can get it, and I'll take the next one after that if I can get it. Right now, like everyone on the team is just ecstatic that they can actually be on the field to play lacrosse one, and now to have games, like that's a whole nother thing. Like you hear about other teams that they're not even practicing because they're limited by their state or their school regulations, and the fact that we're able to practice together as a whole squad is amazing. So you take that and then you give us the opportunity to compete, and it's just like you see that schedule, and I was gassed up. So I can't wait to play our first game. I think we're playing away at American International, so that should be a great game.
Yeah. Obviously, we're all happy for you guys that we get to have teams back in action. First off, I mean, not just the spring sports, but obviously you are also the ones that have your seasons right in front of you for the most part right now. So we're excited for you as well.
Yeah, so hopefully we can bring in some W's, get the school excited to bring back sports, and get the freshmen excited to play lacrosse because we want them to stay because they're all really talented.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for joining me today to talk about the season, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you reaching out to me.
Of course.